People, deluded, I'm back again. I need to either start going heavy in the gym or keep going to the gym a bit more, because reaching for that camera is making me out of breath, people. But obviously, you lot know I'm an Arsenal fan, so are you lot. We might as well speak about a couple of irrelevant things. First and foremost, to do with our under-23 team and a midfielder who I believe is quite underrated at Arsenal. You know, time will tell if he can have a future here, but I believe regardless of if Matt Smith makes it here or elsewhere, he's going to have a good career. He's been nominated for the Premier League 2 Player of the Month award, which is the equivalent to obviously the Premier League's Player of the Month and whatnot. He's been nominated with a strong list of players, to be very honest with you. Our 19-year-old Ryan Tulloch of West Bromwich Albion, who's been doing decent, people, and has made some appearances at first team for West Brom. Admiral Muswe, I can't say his name, but he plays for Leicester and I believe he's from Zimbabwe. He's been decent. Ben Knight, formerly of Ipswich, now of Manchester City, 17 years of age, doing his thing. As has Shea Hutchinson of Norwich, Liam Cullen of West Bromwich Albion, and a very decent 18-year-old in Ajonian who plays for Chelsea. Very tall, got a lot of physical qualities, very good on the ball. There's a lot of players at Chelsea, man, that are gonna have good careers, man. You got him, you got Billy Gilmore, you got Gallagher, you got there's quite a few, man. I've spoken about them before. I have a list somewhere. Levy Colwell, the defender, I like him a lot. So it's a tough list, and to be honest, they all deserve, based on how they've played over the last period in their respective league, they all potentially deserve a place, people, and they're all deserving of such, really and truly. So fingers crossed for Matt Smith, of course. Obviously, he's done his thing, popped up with a couple of goals this season, or in the last month, so it's good for him. A bit irrelevant from Arsenal, but it's always important to speak about these things. Sadly, John Obi Mikel, playing for his team in Turkey, Transpor, I can't pronounce their name, forgive me. He's been sadly subjected to racism, people. This was based on social media, and again, it's important to highlight these things. It's quite sad, really and truly. I'm so sure there was another incident somewhere in terms of racism. I thought I copied and pasted it. But let's move away from that. Let's not waste any more time on ignorance and whatnot. Obviously, our young midfielder Emil Smith-Rowe's been on loan to Huddersfield. He's played a couple of games. He's played against Brentford. He got a goal and assist against Fulham in their defeat, 3-2 Fulham 3-2 victory in that game. He played against someone else, and so far I'd say it's mixed. He's had some decent. His best game's obviously the Fulham one. Against Brentford he was so. The game I can't remember, but I reported on it, people. He was decent in that. We need him to obviously get goals and assists. We need him to get greater football intelligence and just improve as a player. But for me, he looks very much a confidence player. So I need him to go back and play with a smile on his face and believe he can make it as a professional footballer. And he's doing his thing at Huddersfield. Hopefully he can come back and try to challenge for a place. But his manager, Daniel Cowley, has said he's a really good player. He has the ability to speed up the game and always find spaces and move away from the ball. You see so many young players who always want to move to the ball, but he's just happy to move away from it and find space. And that's true. He's a very good player. He's obviously good driving with the ball, which he's got to showcase in his, 3, maybe 4 appearances so far, wherever I've spoken about in my videos, under the man at Huddersfield. When he signed for the club, he said he can play as well as the flanks, which we know he can do. He's described him as an 8 and a 10. And you think long term he does have a position either in the 10 or midfield. But he's at that age now where he doesn't need to feed a finished article, but he's got to see his opportunity and seize it at Arsenal, because I believe a lot of these young players can make it. But at the end of the day, me who sits here and makes all these videos about players from Haaland and things, it's naive to believe everybody can make it. At the end of the day, you've got to seize your opportunity. Obviously, situations are different, but you've seen Saka. Not everyone can be like Saka and Martinelli, and everyone develops. And Saka and Martinelli might hit potential roadblocks and adversity in their careers, which they potentially have already. But them and they have had their Saka's had his chance, left back, left mid, playing at Old Trafford and things, and he's taking it, sort of thing. So his future is already here at the team. Martinelli the same. Obviously, when you're looking at Nelson's got a future. Emil, I believe, has a future, and a couple of other players. Joe as well. These sort of man there, it takes a bit of time, and you've got to seize your future, because these lot, Maitland-Niles, all of these players, it's good for us to have these academy players, but you don't want to become a forgotten man. You don't want to be trapped in that thing with young players where you're for a couple of years you're part of the team, but you're not really, you have a couple of loan spells. You want to seize it. You want want to give Arteta a headache going into pre-season for next season. Like, yo, I've got to use him. And again, obviously, 8 and a 10. Sorry, people. You speak about Emil. He's a very creative man and a creative player, and that's his skill set. We have a void in terms of creativity in the team. Joe Willock, arguably someone who I believe would actually be better in a pivot, is ahead of him in what you describe as more Emil. So he's got a lot to prove. But, you know, he keeps doing his thing. You never know what can happen. And good luck to Emil. Moving away from that, Saliba, who didn't have the best of games in his last games against Mets, and he played a very experienced and good goal scorer in Diallo, and very experienced striker. He's really street smart, he's fast, he's aggressive, he's strong. These are the tough lessons our young defenders have to learn. It's all fun and games watching the games where he's doing all the passing and that, but he's got a lot to learn. He's still a good player, but people need to remember he's a young man. He got terrorised in that game, but he's still a young man with a lot of potential. And I believe Debuchy, our former fullback, has bigged him up. But the comments I have from Kabai, former Newcastle lad, he's like a big man. He's only 18, but he's like a big man. He's strong, and hopefully he will adapt himself really quickly in a club like Arsenal with French players. I think he can do really well. So fingers crossed for him. Let me see if I can find Debuchy's comments, people, quickly. Debuchy, Saliba, come on Google, don't fail me now. I don't want to click on the Daily Mail, so let's click on the Metros one. Apologies, people. Cookies? Nah, because I swear they did the GDPR thing. You don't need the cookies and not in my man browsing history and that. Moving away from that, that's a bit harsh. Metro have described Debuchy as an Arsenal flop. That's a bit harsh. I know Debuchy had a lot of injuries, but I wouldn't say he was a flop at Arsenal. That's quite harsh. He was actually decent for a second. Then someone, what game was it? Someone pushed him, people, at the Emirates. He was going like the chance was dead, and he got pushed and he mashed up his elbow. I thought Debuchy was alright, man. Like, he weren't amazing or nothing, but bit harsh. Who's the journalist, man? You gotta start hotting these youths out, man. Snitches, keeping it hidden. Metro Sport Reporter. Alright, cool. Whoever you know in your heart, whoever writ this nonsense. But to the relevant parts on what our former player Debuchy has said, he said, he's a great player. I'm so happy for him to play next season for a club like Arsenal. He improves every game, and I think he's a great player. He's strong with good technique. He's quick. I think he has a lot of quality to play for Arsenal, and he does, but we need to develop him. You see, games, he's described as a football nerd. That's what we heard from Saliba, someone that analyses his games. So games where he's played against that street smart striker like Diallo, he's got to watch that game several times and see what he did right, what he did wrong, because his positioning weren't the best at times dwelling on the ball. As a defender, you've got to find that balance of being proactive. You've got to see the situation. Everybody sees the glamorous passes or glamorous tackle that Van Dijk might do, and that's the Hollywood stuff. Quite rightly so, you see it. But the less glamorous but equally as important is when Van Dijk has clocked the situation the opposition is doing, so he sorted himself and his teammate out positionally, and it's been cut out before it's even got to that. Nobody sees that, nobody speaks about that, but I promise you that is 100% better than the tackles, because if you have to make a slide tackle, it looks great, people, but somewhere along the line your team's made a mistake and you're having to recover. It's about being proactive, not reactive. Obviously, as a defender, you're reacting to a lot of stuff. It's common sense. But it's about, you see, he's just got to develop, man. He's 18. Let's take our time. He's going to learn he's going to have some good games in the Prem. We've got to play him to get that experience. But he's going to have some harsh lessons, people, because there's some elite strikers in this Prem. If they're not necessarily elite, they're street smart, they're experienced. And yeah, man, obviously he's learning. It's his second full season technically, where he's had some injuries as a technical full professional footballer. Hopefully that could be a thing, man. I mean, we need to make some decisions over centre-half, in my opinion, for next season, because there's a lot on the books and I still would like another one. So, yeah, we'll have to see what could happen. We was linked in January with a whole host of centre-halves, like you know, from Jerome Boateng to Stones and Nathan Ake, his future should be interesting depending on what happens to Bournemouth. But I mentioned this in a couple of videos, but just because I've said it before, I might as well mention Gabriel from Lille, the young defender that we've been linked with in his early 20s. We apparently want to go back in for him in the summer. So what of that shall be sort of thing, people. I'm sure that we were linked with another player based in Holland. Here we go. The Daily Mail, people, this was on Twitter. Apparently the Daily Mail have reported Arsenal are interested in Feyenoord's Turkish under-21 midfielder, apologies people, Orkun Kokcu. Apparently we've watched him extensively for the last 18 months now. He's been linked with a lot of clubs. I don't watch him religiously, but he's a typical Dutch player. He's very cultured on the ball. He's got a decent eye for a pass. He's decent in the final third. He can improve in terms of goals and assists, but he's, 19 years of age. Apparently, the fee is around 15 million, and he's rated very highly around everywhere. So, with Arsenal's model, we've got... Apologies for that, people. The memory card was full, but continuing where I left off, the fee in question allegedly is 15 million euros, which with our model of having to buy players and develop them and make them into these quality players of tomorrow, hopefully with what Torreira could be, Saka potentially, Martinelli for sure as well, that's the sort of model, and we need to fill that void. We're in a difficult situation in that, obviously, if we wanted a creative midfielder which could bring us close to 10 goals, 10 assists, it's a premium. We're probably not going to do that. Saying that, we spent 70 million on Pepe. If there's funds, I don't know. But my educated guess will go for a young player who has scope to develop that, because right now, our young player in terms of that, people might not have had him as that, but it's Joe Willock, because we've got Ozil. We're not going to sit here and speak on Mesut Ozil. Ceballos, will he play, won't he play, does Arteta favour him, this, that and the other. Joe Willock's been playing in that advanced role, that sort of Ramsey sort of role, whether it's for the energy and the dynamism, who knows. Arteta's spoken of Maitland-Niles there. Personally, again, I'm not going to tell Arteta how to do his job, and I don't really care, because I think they can both play in either role, but I potentially think Maitland-Niles and Joe would be better in the pivot roles, or role in a pivot similar to what Xhaka and Torreira have, than opposed to playing in the advanced role where Ozil is, because I don't think their skill set is ever going to be goals and assists. I think Emil Smith-Rowe could do that, but right now he's still developing. He's not going to bring that to the table. We've got to be like the likes of Leipzig and all these clubs who buy the players of tomorrow, whether that's to sell man on and help us achieve our thing and sell man on, or that's to do whatever, because you look at them, they got Dali Almo out of nowhere. He was at Leipzig forever, looked like he was going by. He was at Zagreb, forever, looked like he was going Barca. He's went Leipzig for peanuts, really, and he's actually watched the game against Frankfurt. He scored today as well, and you know he's going to cost a pretty penny. So if we can do something with this guy, I'm all for it, man. He's got a decent range of passing, and he's not afraid of being on the ball under pressure. Still got a lot of development. 41 appearances for Feyenoord, 7 goals, 8 assists, I believe, and I think he has 2 goals, 2 assists in the league, yeah, in 18 appearances in the Eredivisie, Dutch top flight. He's got 2 goals, 2 assists in 18. In all comps, he's made 29 appearances, got 3 goals and 4 assists. Altogether for Feyenoord's first team, like I said, 41 games, 7 goals, 8 assists. So yeah, in the Eredivisie, he's got 5 goals, 6 assists. So we'll have to see. He's played for Holland at youth level, and he switched to Turkey, where he's been capped at under-21s. So he's still very much waiting on that breakthrough. I don't think he's been capped by Turkey's full team. Obviously, he's played in the Europa League as well. And like I said, I'm not going to say I watch him religiously, but he's someone that's familiar to a lot of people, yourselves included now, because he's played in the Europa League. That's not the first time we've been linked with my man either. Sorry, people. I have other subjects, but I was typing in Arsenal on Google right now in the hope to see if I can bring something else to you lot's table. But yeah, it's not really happening. So let's just move back to what I actually just had, man. And moving away from that, in the Athletic today, I saw David Ornstein. He said a couple of things. Let me find it, people. He said, from a tactical point of view, from an emotional point of view, I heard Arteta gave an unbelievable speech before the Manchester United game on New Year's Day, where we had a positive performance, people, to say the least. Apparently they were galvanised and whatnot, and you saw a lot of that spirit. And yeah, man, it's good to see he can be motivated. Obviously, it counts for a lot, but given our form, it counts for very little to a degree. But it's good to hear. Moving away from that, Ornstein has said, I only hear good things about Arteta from a player's perspective. They believe in what he's saying. They understand his words and messages, which was not the same language coming out when Unai Emery was sadly in charge, people. He then continued and said, they showed the players a number of videos/clips from matches where as a player the ball was given away / made a mistake, and several players throwing up their arms in air and being disgusted with teammates, and they tried to cut that out. And what have me and you lot been saying, and you lot in the comments in me and my videos, whether someone's made a mistake or not, we never like that sort of stuff, because yeah, it's a problem, but we've got to go get back and win the ball. Lay into your teammates at half time and after the game. We fight for the cause. Mistakes happen, so that's something we want to see, and these are positive things. And it's early days under Arteta, but personally I believe in him, and again, if he proves not to be the man at some period, again, it will cross that bridge. But I think so far he's shown me enough to get behind. He showed me a vision, he showed me a plan. All I asked for was a clear philosophy, and like for fans, just to clearly, you might not be perfect, you might make mistakes, but clearly see what you're trying to do. And you can evidently see that his words are back in his chat. Obviously, as a manager, there has been times, obviously for some fans, and there probably will be times in the future, he's going to bewilder us with certain things he says, and he's going to naturally make mistakes. Arguably in his last game against Burnley, he made some starting selection issues, but I think on the whole he's shown me stuff to get behind, and I believe he's the man. And I believe the key thing, and obviously it's still early days because he's only been in the job for a hot moment, innit? It's only time will tell if he's going to be a success. But what people have forgotten is that you've disregarded, not in a positive way. One thing that was said is, and rightly so, is the lack of experience. He's never been the top job. Certain people was as harsh, they say all he did was carry stuff for Pep Guardiola, which is damn right disrespectful. Everybody's forgotten about that now. It's forgotten. You're just judging Arteta on what the man's doing, and you see what I'm saying. You're not talking about, oh, a more experienced manager might have done this or done that, and then this and the other. And I'm happy to see that, really and truly, above everything as well, people. Moving away from that, I believe Mustafi has said some comments just to end this, people, and he has said he's apparently admitted he would have considered retiring from Arsenal if he felt he was no longer up to task at Arsenal. Now, maybe potentially this is the media or the journalists or whoever interviewed him exaggerating the headline, but we'll see. He has said, at the end of the day, we know how it is in football. You always get your chances, you always get your possibilities to go again and go again. And when you start thinking like you said, I think it's when you retire from football. So yeah, and he said, at the end of the day, we are here to work and we are here to play for a big club. I've always wanted to be ready and be there. And whenever the team or the coach needs me, I will always say I'm going to be there. And to be honest, that's the mentality you want to have. Like, we know Mustafi, he makes mistakes, and I think they'll never leave his game. But he's always had a good mentality. He's done well to above criticism, and obviously criticism is fair. We're talking about the over-the-top stuff to keep his head, and it's nice to see that he's kept motivated and whatnot, because it's no fact. I can admire how he's been playing relatively. He's been playing well, even when he made the mistake the other day, he's been playing well. But I just believe it's time to move. It's not just him, but several players, move them on, move past the drama and the fairy tale and the alignment and this marriage of certain players underperforming in Arsenal, because we clearly need a centre-half. If Mustafi can prove me wrong and become this consistent don, then fair play. But I genuinely believe somewhere along the line, Mustafi will always let you down in big games, but or just in general, because he's played well this season, really, and reacted from mistakes. But the Chelseas, the Liverpools aways, when it really matters, these are the things. And we've been down this road, not just him, with several players. There's several members of the side that, if Arteta's behind them, he's behind them. But I think we've just got to divorce away and break anew. And a lot of it is actually out of Arteta's hands, because he needs to be backed by the men upstairs and the owner. Not necessarily with giving him £200 million to spend, if FFP would even allow that, I don't know. But just in terms of, you know, the foresight and all of these sort of things, people. Let's give it one last look to see if there's anything really to expand and speak on further than this. Nah, it's not looking great, people. We'll give it one last look. Oh, Mohamed El Nene and Ozil have linked up in Istanbul. Obviously, Ozil will be flying to Dubai in a piece. And congratulations to Ozil, regardless what you think about him. I don't know if I officially said it, for 250 appearances for the club. Whatever you say about that, you know, got to give them their dues, because we love our club and whatnot. There's nothing more to add, really and truly. So I'm just going to get out of here. Let's not waste any more of your time. People, as usual, I'm out, man. Thank you for your support. Thank you for watching. Hit the like, subscribe, and all the rest of that stuff. I'm out.